Consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, good morning. Opportunity to do start a day as blessed, favored, and of course also graced people of God. Now today being Thursday, that we can start on Wednesday. Well, I wonder if it's still the same motion, but nevertheless, he's here to give me the best answer. Robert, is it a weekend already for you?
Thursday is the evening of, so we are looking into the weekend because soon we'll be in Friday.
It's
and
the evening of the week.
Of the weekend.
Okay.
So it's something that really ushers you there. But of course, just remind our viewers to Chikuba every Friday. So don't miss our special Friday, that is tomorrow. Felix and Priscilla, there is something very interesting that I discovered yesterday. But first, good morning, our lovely viewers. Thank you so much for waking up with us. Many a times we talk about fighting corruption. And sometimes we've already said, but this is something easy we can fight. So listen to this interesting story yesterday. I go to some supermarket, and as I get out, 3 border men approach me. Tell me, aha, Mukulu, you told us, Honorable Nabakoba, we were watching on UBC TV. Like, you guys watch? Yes, we were watching. And you said we get our motorcycles as long as we have what we need to ensure their hours and we pay the express penalties. I told them, yes, confidently. They told me, Sebo Mukulu, now go with us. Let's get our motorcycles. I told them why. We've done everything within our possibility and we failed to get our motorcycles. One said, so at first I thought they were joking and I wanted to drive off. But when I noticed that these guys were really upset and they were very serious, I saw one, even you could see the tears in his eyes. So I said, where? Chibuye, let's go. Felix and Priscilla, I noticed fighting corruption is so hard. And sometimes when you look at these people and just speak, why can't they? Money gets lost. We reach at the police station. All these boys had paid for the last 2 weeks the penalty and they have the receipts from the bank. So we go, we meet this officer who says, Bakuru, Atechi, we are back with our receipts we paid. He said, but you didn't pay the breakdown. I said, okay, breakdown? And I said, but Afande, this is the police station. My motorcycle was just next year. Breakdown mitwale tano. Like, Mukulu, is this money receipted for? This is money for the breakdown. We can't let your motorcycle go if you've not cleared the breakdown. But there is no breakdown. I said, okay. But is this money? If you don't clear the breakdown, you even have permits today. So it began becoming so wild. So I tell him, how do we pay the money for the breakdown? And he says, I'm going to give you a mobile money number. Right? Mobile money number. Yes, and when you're paying, you don't have to send from your phone. Go to an agent, give them that money, they send on this number. So I'm confident, we shall send on that number. Tell these guys, let's go and pay on the mobile money. What happened? When you dial the number, it says the number you've called does not exist on the network. But actually, the guy can use the same number to call you. Names which the number is registered are completely not his names. We felt very confused. Arrested this border. You know, it's very hard, sir, to get a border. Man, they break our legs. So you can't just, you see, me now, I've let your motorcycle go, but it's the one who has the keys. My leg was broken, so it was so long. Actually, now I call a colleague in Standard PS. She says, Kirabo, come get money, we give you the money. But the first one used mobile money. Now the officer tells us what you're going to do. So I told the guy of science, but this is what the man is telling us. Kirabo, now we have to get people, that guy can even pick the money next morning. I'm like, what? When no one has stolen it? I understood fighting corruption is not easy. I can even pick the money next morning. I wonder, Priscilla number calls you and you call back and doesn't exist on the network. It's like, oh God.
Anyway, on a sad note, Kirabo did come face to face with corruption yesterday, and I'm just wondering why he's surprised. I've been here listening, I'm thinking, why are you surprised, Robert? Where have you been staying? Priscilla, good morning.
Well, good morning to you, Felix, and good morning to you, Uganda. As you are rising for the Thursday, the 27th day of May 2021, you can simply do these three things. Just wake up, go into your bathroom, brush, wash your face, and then smile. Tell Thursday that here I come. Because here in Good Morning, we have equally come to set the pace from 6:30 all the way to 9 a.m. My name is Priscilla Nalwoga. Delighted to be here. I'm equally surprised with Kirabo's story, because a report that came out, a corruption report that came out, highlighted that police was one of the most corrupted entities in this country. So really, it's not a surprise. It's just the evidence of what the report was simply saying.
But on top of what Robert did say, there's something I was thinking about this morning as I was driving here, and I kept on thinking, what is the first thing that you did, Robert? Maybe I'll start with Priscilla. When you finished school, what is the first gig you did?
Oh, the first thing I did was to go and work with my father.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were you being paid?
Yes, he was paying me.
Wow, lucky
Yeah,
you.
so from I come back from school Friday, Monday, I was at work. No
Kirabo.
holiday.
Wow, lucky you. And you must thank God for that.
Oh yes,
Kirabo,
I do.
what was the first gig you did?
I was working on a farm. A farm.
Like after university?
Yes,
Or
yes, poultry. As I was trying to look for what best.
what were you doing at the farm?
I was supervising. Sometimes I would, yes, supervising. Yes.
What was there to supervise?
Well, there were cows.
Question, how do you supervise?
That's
there
the
were
thing.
cows.
How do you supervise at the farm?
It was
You
a
just
family
look.
thing, but of course there's someone who
You
was
make
doing
sure they
that
have
job.
eaten, eat.
Where is at here? You know, people name
This is
their
what-
cows.
Okay, let me just throw more light to this, Priscilla. If you have a farm, there are pigs, then cows. So all these things, first and foremost for poultry, there are times of feeding, times of picking eggs, then the times of milking,
So
then these
were you
animals
paid?
eaten. I was being paid.
What was your first salary?
200,000.
What?
Yes.
Like seriously?
Yes.
Jesus. Why did you people grow? You know,
What was your first, when you got out of school, what did you do
I
first?
had to be a turn boy,
A what?
like a turn man on some
On trucks or?
on a truck.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
of
was a
cement
mattress
or
factory.
of sand?
In a
And
mattress
it was a
factory.
mattress
Ah.
factory, so I had to, kutembea hivi.
Okay. That's a good.
And I was being paid, I think, 100,000. Yeah. But and the reason why I asked this is that I was looking at these kids who have been graduating the other week, about thousands, and I'm thinking,
And the high expectations.
Yes, the
vis-a-vis
thing.
the life they're getting into, the reality that
Yeah,
they're going
and-
to slap them.
and I was just feeling sorry for them because I met one of them yesterday, all with, why? Kusoma tekubadde I'm like, they were wages he was single. Like gacha mabaga. Like, and the man was happy. And I'm like, okay, welcome to the real school
But
now.
there is one picture that really caught my attention. Is this graduate who goes to the market where the mother works,
The grandmother, actually.
the grandmother who works, and he was kneeling, then also getting blessings from the grandmother. I think this is.
Real school
But
now.
there is one picture that really caught my attention. Is this graduate who goes to the market where the mother works,
The grandmother, actually.
the grandmother who works, and he was kneeling,
I
in
think
his
it's a good-
gowns,
yeah.
and yeah, he had to go to such a place and honor
It's
the
an
source
encouraging
where he has
photo.
gotten money.
And those are people that show you must remember you're humming the gown and the heart is going to give you wings to fly. My friend, you're going to still stay on the ground for a while. You've got to build a foundation and continue, above.
You know, a lesson I picked from this, I was looking at this young man. It's good to have remembered that this is where the money came from. But how best can you improve that with the knowledge you've gotten from school? Because if this is a place where your grandmother
which part
has
do you
gotten
want
money,
to be improved?
no, this is what came to my mind, that sometimes when people graduate, they have this belief, I must find employment somewhere. Someone must employ me. But I was looking at this graduate and I'm like, if this lady, paying tuition is not an easy thing, but maybe she's worked in this market, she's been able to pay for 3 of you even at university, she's been able to pay why don't you think about, yes, before I think of money somewhere else, maybe how best can we, with my knowledge, can I improve this? Say if your mother is literate and she's not so much into internet, maybe how best do we ensure that we make more market using the connections I've had to deliver these things home? So that's how Indians do that. When they
Kirabo, you are a pastor's child. When you left school, why didn't you go and join your father to help him with his gospel preaching,
the media area of the
evangelizing?
church?
Actually, I've done that. I've done that.
You
yes,
have
to
just
some
told us your
extent.
first job was something else,
Yeah, but
completely
my
in a
first
different
job
direction.
wasn't.
So you have.
Priscilla,
no,
Kirabo
what I'm
is not
saying,
on a
my
hot
first
seat.
job was not in
Please
church.
I shall not
Because,
investigate any further.
just wait, Priscilla, because, you know, for me, I know church things is all about a calling. So,
So
I've
market
tried
things
using,
are not about a
I've tried
calling.
using, no, there are two different things.
Are you serious?
Yes, because
so
this is
so
something
law
as
is not a calling, but church things are calling.
law is more of a profession.
Wow.
So
But this is
today,
ministry and
This
a
is
Kirabo,
a very
with
long
anointing.
conversation.
the other calling
Yeah.
that I want also to bring to our viewers is that Hallelujah tamarind drink is one of those drinks that you would want to start your day with as a true calling indeed. Please get yourself Hallelujah tamarind and Hallelujah ginger tea drink to do start your day. You know that it does help with those who have throat issues. And now do you remember, if you want to boost your immunity, now that you are in a scare of the new wave of COVID-19. That is also quite something important we do talk to you, our viewers, about. Please and please engage in a high gear about the SOPs. Protect yourself, wear a mask, social distance, sanitize, wash your hands, avoid crowded places. The ministry comes out to tell us that there's another wave and the numbers. Just last week, 1,000 cases were recorded. And from what it's alleged that at least up to today, we've had over another 1,000 cases. ICUs are starting to fill up from the information we got from the ministry. So you must take care. Again, it's a threat that we may be going to a lockdown if we don't work out the SOPs.
Another calling that we have is people who can actually be on social media and make money out of social media, get everything live on their phones or, you know, on any way they interact with the internet. And so for those of you that interact mostly favorably with the internet, you can interact with Good Morning Uganda on Twitter at UBC TV Uganda. The hashtag is UBCGMU. Just put in the hashtag and you will be able to get every single comment, information, and the details of what Good Morning Uganda is about. But equally on YouTube, UBC Television Uganda, we stream live every single day up to 9 a.m. But equally on YouTube, UBC Television Uganda, we stream live every single day up to 9 a.m. and IPTV. So catch up with us and follow the Thursday morning with us. As we continue, we definitely have to look at the stories. People who went to off in chains, that's up for hours.
And we will begin with what is happening in Parliament after the swearing in of a number of parliaments, where I see the number of members of parliaments. Well, we see the 10th Parliament had 426 members. However, with the creation of new districts and cities, they are now 529 members and still counting. Rusheni County Member of Parliament, Naume Kaba Sharire, however, hopes to table private members' bill that will reach Busiro North, Member of Parliament, Paul Nsubuga, Chadondo East, Muwadanku Nyingi, and the Woman Member of Parliament for Mbarara Ayebare Margaret explained their intentions once they begin business on the floor of Parliament. They also representing Oyam County and Minister of State for Defense and General Duties as senior members in the House. They are willing to give guidance to the new members. If they further advise the new members to stay away from partisan politics if they are to achieve the goal of serving the electorate. Now the question remains, will all the 529 members of Parliament get time to deliberate on their issues on the floor of Parliament?
Defilement cases in Amuru District are allegedly on the increase. Amuru District Probation Officer Beatrice Anena blames shopkeepers for taking advantage of underage girls who they lure with gifts. She explained that the COVID-19 lockdown worsened the situation as they recorded 8 cases of early pregnancy every single month. Juvenile perpetrators have to be transported to Gulu or wait for Noah District Grade 1 Magistrate to visit for handling of their cases. Evelyn to Gulu or wait for Noah District Grade 1 Magistrate to visit for handling of their cases. Evelyn Akelo, the Assistant Probation Officer, also says that there is a direct correction between defilement and the early marriage, as they recorded 238 cases in 2019 among females, but it shot to 1,030 cases in 2002. The rise as they recorded 98 cases in 2019. National Children Authorities has now tasked local government leaders to protect and...
It was all a jolly mood, of course, with few unexpected activity there, but the Executive Director of KCCA, Dorothy Kisaka, tasked the new elected KCCA councillors to build bridges for harmonious service delivery while taking their office. Kisaka was inaugurating councillors during their swearing-in at KCCA headquarters in Kampala. However, chaos erupted amidst the function with a warrant which warranted adjournment of the process by Uganda Road Chief Magistrate. The newly elected councillors took their oath of allegiance to ensure that they run the city responsibly at City Hall. The occasion was presided over by Uganda Road Chief Magistrate Mariam Akelo Ayo. During the swearing-in process, the interactions occurred between the magistrate and councillors over misappropriation of words. The House was adjourned for almost an hour when chaos erupted over misconduct of some councillor, that is Kampala Central Councillor Kirabo Moses, who appeared on the podium with chains, which was against the rules. Later on, Councillor Kirabo Moses agreed to obey the set rules and the process continued. The Lord Mayor-elect also took oath and promised to offer political guidance to the councillors. He received instruments of power to execute his duties.
Well, we were having a conversation during the course of this week, and from the swearing in of the Speaker and Deputy Speaker, the drama that we saw there from members of opposition is going to trickle down to every other entity that is of public service. And now this is worrying, because if this is what we're seeing on day one, then what are we going to be seeing in 100 days? What are we going to be seeing at the end of this year? What do we expect out of the 5 years? Now, that's a question we cannot answer unless we see how all this works out together. Question is for you, Felix. Is this all going to work out together for good?
It has to. It has to. And that's the purpose of enforcement and coercion. That's where we'll see a couple of them clashing with the law, and thereafter probably also with the coercive forces, say the police, the army, and whichever other institution.
One thing I know is not sustainable. At one time, people are going to look like fools if they do not organize themselves.
Not at one time. They are already.
They're going to look like
We're just waiting to see what is the magnitude or the extent.
We had a time for politicking, for seeking votes, and these were activities, but now that you're a Lord Councillor, you're in leadership, and there's what is demanded of you. So you have to remove that coat.
We're going to continue this conversation in our newsreel, Robert Hero, so do not tickle our audience. Felix Nkunda, what do you have for us on the international scene?
Now, international stories, we'll be looking at Belarus, there where we see Lukashenko hits back at condemnation of journalists, arrest there. Now, he did come in out to say that at least Parliament common sense should use their common sense, and which is what he used when he was arresting this particular person. Now, we also said that a Parliament common sense had been abandoned and many red lines crossed as Western countries imposed sanctions on Belarus. He was defending the move of forcibly diverting a Rain airplane which was flying from Greece to Lithuania to land in Belarus on Sunday. Now, Belarusian journalist who is also a critic of Mr. Lukashenko was arrested. That is Roman, who's 26, now was placed on terrorism list last year and says he fears that death penalty carries out death sentences. Now, still looking at international stories, we're looking at the U.S., where we see United States President Joe Biden has instructed U.S. spy agencies to review classified information about the origins of the coronavirus, including whether it comes from contact between humans and animals or from a research laboratory in China, in a move that drew condemnation from Beijing. Now, in a statement on Wednesday, Biden said that while the U.S. intelligence community had closed around 2 likely scenarios, it had yet to reach a definitive conclusion in terms of the same. Now, still about international stories, we also cross over to Tigray, where we're looking at U.S. Well, at least we'll be looking at the Biden again, who did come out to urge for a ceasefire in the large-scale abuses that are happening in Tigray. Now, he came out to say that a ceasefire and the end of the large-scale human rights abuses in Ethiopia's war-torn area of Tigray, just days after the U.S. imposed visa restrictions on Ethiopians and Eritreans, officials who are accused of being part of these atrocities happening in the Tigray region in Ethiopia. Well, clearly, most of the stories are evidence of meddling, interstate meddling, where we see Belarus, Lukashenko still reigns after all the challenges. Robert, if you remember the time when we used to do Lukashenko, he's still in power, and he came out to divert a plane. It landed in Belarus. He arrested the journalist, saying that in Belarus, this journalist is on terrorist list, is wanted. So the rest of the things you're saying, this journalist is on terrorist list, is wanted. So the rest of the things you're saying are up to you. And it is the only country which has refused to remove the life-death sentence. Let's wait and see how things will turn out. Nevertheless, Robert, Priscilla, and I will be here again to do the newsreel. And of course, later on we shall have our GMU agenda, where we'll be discussing coronavirus. As I said earlier, it is now most recent the topic that everyone must be interested in understanding, because it's a matter of life and death. We'll take a break, have our song for the day, but of course do not forget to follow us on all our social media platforms, on Facebook, Twitter, and of course you can catch us live on YouTube. Let's take a break, have our song for the day. When we come back, we will pick it up from our newsreel.
was brought to you by...
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Century Points when you deposit, send and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go. MTN.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communications sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Experience 100% 4G speeds across Uganda with the Airtel 4G Pocket Wi-Fi available at 123,000 shillings only. It comes with 15 GB free for 1 month. Visit the nearest Airtel shop, device selling shop or Airtel online shop. www.airtel.co.ug/broadband-discover. Airtel, the smartphone network.
What does it mean to be closer together? It's taking the last bus home for a surprise visit. Closer together is strangers finding a connection. It's bringing home something much more than a box. It's the warmth of home or the beginning of something new. There's magic in sharing the things that we love. Because it's those things that bring us close together.
Echa COVID-19 chijja kugwa. If we get vaccinated now, observe social distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly. Together we can defeat this enemy.
Has anyone seen Bob?
Over here!
How did you get in there?
With my Airtel Money MasterCard.
But you don't even have a bank account.
Well, it's not a card. It's virtual, so no plastic, and it's safer.
But what are you doing there?
I want to buy Nancy a birthday gift, book my flight tickets, renew my Big Click subscription, and order a shipment.
The Airtel Money MasterCard. It's not a card, but works just like one. Get one on the Airtel Money menu on your phone.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
It's always a pleasure knowing that you're with us on UBC TV. Thank you so much for making it a date with us. But also just remind you, every morning from 6:30, we're here and we start your morning by ensuring we inform you of what is happening and also throw into what might happen throughout the day. So be an informed person, be entertained, be educated, because we set the agenda. A newsreel story, and this is the swearing in that is of the Lord Mayor and his council. That happened yesterday at City Hall in Kampala and was presided over by the Chief Magistrate, who is the Lord Mayor Elias Lukwago. It was a colorful ceremony, though it had some bit of interruptions when we saw one of the councillors who was preparing to be sworn in come up, chained, and of course with a placard having some message there that at some time caused adjournment of the function, but later it continued. Sense was restored and sanity, so the occasion continued. But this has happened in other parts of the country also, where we've seen local leaders being sworn in and taking oath. Felix and Priscilla will be looking at, first and foremost, the genesis to this, where we have the president at the top, you have parliament, you have so many elected leaders that are elected. We know when it comes to Kampala, KCCA is a city and was by an act of government. That is why Kampala is a bit tricky. That yes, you have those are coming to the council, but also have division leadership, where still you have a division mayor and his council. Felix, just to throw more.
It's simply about style of leadership. There are some governments or states or civilities that will appreciate to centralize power. Others will also appreciate to decentralize, given the intention and the countries. And by example, it is concluded attribution that most of the third world countries, and by scholarly approach or even practice, must adopt a design of governance and in terms of politics and service delivery. No wonder Uganda had to swing the same direction by enacting laws of local government, and that's how we ended up having local government leaders, where most of these councils subscribe to. You look at areas like Chengera, it becomes a local council, people power to form local governments, the word local government. So to form local governments, the word local government, so they can be able to collect their taxes locally, the direct taxes, like licenses, shops. You have people who do mining, you have trading licenses, all those kind of things, they collect them to be able to cater for the most. So that's basically how it comes into play. But it's simply a style of leadership. When you go to civilities like the USA, they don't appreciate local governance, but they appreciate governances, like in statehood. They have a country, the United States, but then there are states which have linked and semi-autonomous leadership. When you go to the states of New Jersey, some of the original states that compose USA, the New Jerseys, Ohio, is it Ottawa, this place that has many, Uganda is called what? It has a B, it's called, where there's Minnesota, Boston, yes. Those are some of the Michigans. They are states, they are semi-autonomous from the governments. They can pass laws to govern them, even away from the general laws of the country. That's why you remember the contradictions of Trump and some governors in terms of dealing with COVID. You remember New York had to pass. So that is it is a style of leadership that for them, they have governors who deal with states, and those states have what we call bylaws that may be applicable, not anywhere else. But Uganda appreciates what we call a general law in terms of local governance, which is the local government law, or the act for that matter, that deals with that all local governments must have a similar formation, must be the same style with the one in Gulu. Because the intention for third world countries is definitely more or less to first appreciate service delivery and try to bring out people from a particular level to a certain one. So which is the evidence of what we saw. That is how you see councillors coming into place. Now, there are those, when you come to city status issues, for example, you did mention Kampala, or where the string forth board of our story is that Kampala initially was the only city by law, and it was by act of Parliament. It was a statutory instrument, the KCCA Act. Now, where there's a statutory instrument, it means that Parliament has debated and passed it as law. If something is an instrument of Parliament or statutory instrument, it is there because it's a parliamentary statute. Now, it means that in that law they give you the hierarchy of how it will be governed. There shall be a mayor who shall be the political head. There shall be an executive director who shall be a technical head. Who will appoint the president shall appoint the technical wing and blah, blah, blah. Oh, they spell out that this council shall have the composure of these so many people, blah, blah, the duties, everything is by law. Most recent, if I'm not mistaken, last year, through the custody of Ndugu Raphael Magezi, we were able to appreciate more cities, about 7, if I'm not mistaken. Now, those ones, again, are acts of parliament. It was through an act of parliament that they became in place, and that's why they had to be elevated from LC5 to mayorship. If you remember, there was even a contradiction, a bitter one in Mbarara, if you remember.
Who takes over?
Who's the
now
caretaker now?
Yes.
And all this kind of
until
things.
we have elections.
So those are the dynamics of local governance, basically. But when you go to Kampala, it has another gimmicks on top of the dynamic. That on top of it being just a city, it has divisions. I don't know if you remember the different hills of Kampala.
The 5 divisions that make up Kampala.
And I want to ask my sister about her SST in Nakaset.
You have Kawempe, you have Rubaga, you have Nakawa, you have the Central Division, and Machindi.
There's no Muyenga.
Not at all.
Yeah, just to be sure. So basically, that would mean that those divisions cause a composure of Kampala as it is. Now, that would mean that the divisions also have leadership at the level of local council. That's why the head of the division is also a mayor of the division, but at the level of local council. The Honorable Elias Lukwago, his worship there, is a mayor of the city. These are mayors of divisions. At
mayors.
Local council, the word local council. These are city, this local council.
Felix, with that rich background, now let's dive into reality at KCCA. Yesterday we saw the new councillors, the Lord Mayor take oath. But Priscilla, one of the things that is interesting, when it comes to Parliament, government, NRM, has the lion's share. When it comes to composition of councillors at KCCA, the reverse is true. So you have more opposition councillors. Now, we've always had a challenge between the technical wing and the political wing, sometimes in KCCA. Some have alluded to the law has gaps. Some have said it hinders them to deliver. The technical wing believes we plan better. The political wing says we live in the people, the representatives. So you should, what we bring is what you should go by. I remember even had a time when council was never sitting before because of these complications. With these new leaders coming on board, one evidently showing that despite the faction being this very honorable, at least he had to chain up himself. What do you see of this council for the next 5 years?
Well, before I see the council for the next 5 years, I would like to first focus on, the swearing-in day and the drama that stretched through, both in actions and in words.
So it actually shows an image of what may come.
What may come.
Yes.
So let's start from the highest office, His Lordship Mayor, that is Elias Lukwago. Through the campaigns, Omulodi Mwali was the campaigning statement, and now, the Omulodi has been enthroned.
Really,
Allah has been with him throughout his political career and has Anyway, in his swearing in, after he was sworn in, he gave a speech, and in his speech he was actually having a strong warning towards opposition leaders in the council. As you will note that the council this time round is having the highest number of opposition coming from the National Unity Platform. And those are the people that are going to be subscribing to his lordship and the direction that he has for the city for the next 5 years. But him to strongly come out and warn them that they should not think of disrupting his work in one way or another. Dare they do so, he will deal with them accordingly. Now, how do you start your speech, your inauguration speech, not committing to what you're going to be doing for Kampalans in the next 5 years, but rather you are talking about war zone? Is the city council a place for war?
Are you surprised that such comes from Elias Lukwago?
Is it a place? I'm surprised that after all this time he has not grown in stature to understand that now is not the time to fight. Now is the time to act, because time is running out. 15 years down the road, now this would be the best time for you to work for the next 5 years. 2026 is not very far from today. So it would be good for him to be smarter and wiser. And why do I say that? Let's reflect a little back on his journey into this particular office. When he was elected into the office in 2011, under his tenure in 2011 to 2016, I believe most members of the council were NRM members. And there was so much pulling of ropes here and there, so much conflict that happened in those 5 years. So much so that in 2013, he was thrown out of office, and he was for 2 years, yeah, from 2013 to 15. He was out of office, one, incompetency, and the fact that he was not leading the team to the direction they envisioned at the beginning of 2011.
I remember that time even council sittings were hard. They would fail to agree, and they weren't serving the purpose of Uganda. And it was politics at play all the time.
Exactly. It was politics, and they were drawing it on the lines of partisan. And this is where the challenge becomes, is that when do we draw the line of when partisan should be applied and not applied? Partisan can be applied when you're looking for your votes, and eventually it gets you into power. But when you are in power, what you do in power is not partisan. Because what you do as the Lord Mayor is going to affect Kirabo, NRM, it's going to affect Nkunda, who is UPC. So it does not draw margins on partisan after being sworn in as Lord Mayor. Now we come into 2016 and we see him coming back to the same position. His defense is that because it was opposition, NRM against him, he came out to say that, no, this time round I'm here to defend Kampala, to fight for Kampala. But were we in fighting? Did you and me need? All we just needed was better service delivery. All we just needed was to have a better city. But has that happened from 2016 to 2020? No, it's still been war zone in the local council, in the city council. And also in this tenure, most of the members of the council were FDC, which was almost on dealing with opposition. Now Felix Nkunda knows the details of the office of the lordship. Is it there to deal and fight opposition?
No, but here's the thing. You see, it's more or less actually related to what we were discussing yesterday about the opposition and governance and the style of politics in this country. The Lord Mayor has, our most recent, subscribes to the FDC, the Forum for Democratic Change, at least. And you and me know that there's a bitter-raged friction between FDC and NOP, and I know his spirit. We know that there's a bitter-raged friction between FDC and NOP, and I know his spirit. Where that statement came from that place, in reflecting to what happened in Parliament against Semunyunga and how the NOP also has shadowed the FDC. It was him being a politician, honestly. But I want to be honest with you, and again, I don't have much expectation from Lukwago. I would be lying to you. I respect him as a Lord Mayor, as a matter of fact, as also a colleague in the practice, as a litigant, but I know that he can only do so much. The late Seya, that is Alhaji Nasser Ntegeseba Gara, we hosted him before his demise, and he brought out to light the fact of the word Lord Mayor being a ceremonial attribution. When you read the KCCA Act, it spells out his duties. One of the biggest challenges, and was to why His Excellency the President fights to have a majority number in Parliament, is for him to consolidate power. Now, I'm looking at a council where he's fearful. That's why the first statement says, if you think you're going to, and that also based on what happened even on that function. That we are here,
but you see, I would expect that your role as the lordship overseeing the council is that you will star this council. I mean, they're here, and you must work with them for the next 5 years.
Yes.
You must implement things. You must come up with
no
policies.
Obligation.
You must come up with a direction, and you must
cause them to buy into what you're selling.
No,
but
he mustn't,
if you're not
by
even
the way.
selling,
Let me
you
tell
have
you,
nothing to sell.
he doesn't have anything to sell as a mayor. And again, he has no obligation to lobby them, because unless he has a particular interest. The reason why you see now, for example, you see why caucuses, NRM caucus, because they have to lobby for their interest. The areas in Lukwago has no particular interest to lobby from the council. He's there to head it and to implement government programs, or also bring into light his agenda. There's a difference. For example, when you look at why Museveni came out in Nkolo to say, I had to lobby because it was incumbent on him as a chairperson of the...
But don't you see that reflecting on the last 10 years, even putting government programs into action has been a challenge for him, because he does not subscribe, does not...
Because also his mandate is limited.
And Felix,
because his mandate is limited in terms of implementation.
First and foremost, there's something that we must understand. Like Felix rightly put it, the functions of a Lord Mayor. Elias Lukwago over a time looked at the law and he says there are gaps that have to be addressed, because they make him almost ceremonial. But actually, these could be the facts in law, and that is what it is. And he was party in Parliament when such laws were being passed. But one thing I've always understood is we have a challenge in this country that people do not know when politics and politicking should end. And actually, some have come up with a political style.
And place for everything.
Yes, they have come up with a political style that has identified them. And I think unless we get to understand that this political style is not taking us anywhere.
Can I just make
I can give you some politicians that you know what made Segirinya. No matter what level you get him to, he will still have to be that Segirinya. You know what made Elias Lukwago on the political arena. That one has been a fighter and all this. But we should come to terms where we agree that this we have to put back and put the nation forward. When you look at Elias Lukwago, when he won the previous time, he began still with drums of war. Have not defeated my competitors in this election, have defeated His Excellency, and have come here to fight. And so,
but I think it will be unfair to narrow down the stature of the Lord Mayor to simply the statement.
What I'm trying to tell you is that when we do not know,
let me ask you a question,
that this time has come to an end, now we should work for the people, and this is what we need.
Haven't you heard the head of state at some point refer to people as Sombosas? What? Why does that make news? We can't judge him by those statements. That is him simply being politics. I haven't heard him one time say propaganda, because and it's okay, because that is politics. We cannot judge the president's ability on the words, those statements. We must spring above just that. You get the point. The Honorable Elias Lukwago has continuously also caused legitimate discussion about the loopholes at City Hall, many a times, by the way, about issues of accountability, issues of transparency, issues of enforcement, wastage of money, and also the dilemma of Ugandans. That's a matter of fact. Okay. So, sometimes you see a politician must be a politician. Okay, when you meet a doctor, you don't expect him to start talking about Lantana Kamara. They'll talk about diagnosis.
So a politician must be a politician. Let's talk about the politician who came in chains.
About that is, you see,
isn't that disrespect to protocol?
No. Let me tell you, I have had the opportunity to have discussion with these people. You saw the same thing they were trying to do when the president was in Kololo. It's the same thing I think he was trying to do. Now, politics, there are styles of politics, and I want to give you two particular ones. There are many, but I want to give you two styles of politics, at least we have seen in this country. One, there's what they call media alert politics. You've talked of the Segirinyas, you've talked, and the people have succeeded because it's a style of politics. You know, for example, there was a time. Thank you so much. So the style of politics for him is trying to pick from the Mandelas. Then you get it, that he's trying to make a statement. Let me tell you, didn't these guys in Parliament make statements when they started putting? You saw how the rebel. Everyone knew them. Out of the 300 and whatever MPs, you may only be knowing those rebel MPs. It works. But the question is, how far can you go with it?
Destructive politics.
The second style of politics is the same, the and shout. But they're going to go to the place where they have to address the issue, and they'll win. And they'll be popular for that. They will prepare go present in parliament a dossier and they will win people's hearts who matter. They will go to court. You've seen what NUP is doing. Some people, for example, you've not seen some people of NUP, yet he has very many people, but they're always in court. Have you seen, did you see Busiro MP, I think that is the right honorable made at Segona. So everyone has a style of politics, and it depends on who's your political father.
Well, Felix talks about, to me, I'll look at one is more of constructive, destructive, but these are all
they all work good,
politics,
depending on the intention.
I just wonder.
Do you think Segenya would be in parliament? Let's be honest. Do you think
he wouldn't?
Let's be honest. But isn't he there?
He is.
So then the white man will say, does the end justify the means? The white man will ask you.
That's a good
we are going to massacre. One will walk there, one will drive there.
Felix,
we are all in massacre.
Gentlemen, can we finish this conversation?
Yes, this nature of politicking that Felix is talking about can only from it. Whereas the constructive way, like the second I've said, the electorate get to understand because you
Molen Kenyana is coming
you get
through.
To come to something that is really worth it. But I can't promote
there is no politics.
Molen Kenyana, we are waiting for you to help me with these two gentlemen. As we're going to be having conversations on whether I will also be taking you through traffic, and then these two gentlemen are going to be looking out of what is happening in the news. What are the pictures, the front page of the tabloids this morning? But also follow us for updates on Twitter at UBC TV Uganda, on Facebook UBC TV, and on YouTube UBC Television Uganda. Now the conversation is going to be on there, and we'll be continuing this argument.
Destructive and constructive approaches.
Well, still good morning Uganda. We do have sports update that is also going to be coming up. Uganda Cup is on, and Ruben Pima Chivirango is going to let us know how Express KCCA game went yesterday. Mukwano Gwabandi. Keep it to UBC.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Echa COVID-19 chijja kugwa. If we get vaccinated, wash our hands with soap and water regularly. Together we can defeat this enemy.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, thank you so much for keeping it on UBC TV. The talk is the second wave of COVID-19, and this is what we shall be handling in our Game U agenda a few minutes from now. But also to remind you, today we are having a joint bulletin, that is media houses, today the 27th, where we are going to be ensuring that we create more awareness. UBC, NBS, Urban TV, Bukede TV are coming together for a shared bulletin for you to be aware that yes, COVID is real. It's with us again, and let's pull up our socks when it comes to efforts to fight the spread of the disease. A very big headline in the new vision, that is COVID-19 tough measures looming. That is, we see priest, senior police officers succumb to deadly virus. And a picture here where they're saying we are showing COVID-19 patients fight is not good at all. Please take things serious this time around. Then Kampala leaders take oath. We see the Lord Mayor there taking oath. That was yesterday at Kampala capital city headquarters. We also look at Museveni meets investors, and then challenges facing Speaker Olanya. What are some of those challenges? Then Democratic Republic of Congo, road deal sealed. This is to ensure proper trade within the region. Yes, Nkunda.
The Daily Monitor, experts push for fresh lockdown. Now, in the absence of Cabinet Health Minister, Permanent Secretary Dana Atwine has called a crisis meeting of colleagues and the World Health Organization officials today to discuss the surge of COVID-19. Now, Lukwago swears in as Kampala Lord Mayor again, and key issues awaiting Olanyo at Parliament and how Emioga scheme works. But also, Dr. Nambatia wins prize for herbal medicine, and success abroad, Ugandan tapped for World Bank senior job. And of course, today in relationships, bad girls who always break men's hearts. Okay. Now, inside the papers, again, we'll be looking at Chris Obole, the Parliamentary Director of Communications and Public Affairs, returned to office on Tuesday after spending more than 500 days on forced leave. Now, of course, Kijabarore cut off road there because of rain, and from the archives, you see a photo of the former Chief Justice Benjamin Odoki helping Madam Kadaga here assume office. That was in 2011. Now, today in history, Obote returns from exile, and at least Roosevelt proclaims national emergency there in US.
Looking at the new vision, still it is COVID-19 where they give you statistics and assurance statistics. And you confirm 7 new deaths registered, 1 total deaths so far. We have 302. When Amin bans miniskirts in Uganda, miniskirts, hot pants, and max skirts were with V-shape slits in front were banned by President Idi Amin. If he returned today, I don't know. Then, still on the same date, but the year 1963, Kenyatta becomes Prime Minister. That is Kenya African National Union won the country's first general election, and the leader of the party, Jomo Kenyatta, became the country's first prime minister. Know your member of parliament. Today we have David Wanyendeya Wakikona, who is MP, Bujiri County, and also Henry. Still in the new vision, yes, they're reminding you there's so much regarding COVID-19.
Rebuild, and of course, Chemtai wants deja vu in Doha. Now 57 days to go for the Olympics, and Karunji looking to pave way for young players. Now Lango Sleep also Maroons recover to book quarter berth, and how Magogo unopposed term was executed. Now Biekwaso elated after frustrating rampant egos in Uganda Cup tie there, and Sula Kato says he can now control his drinking.
Looking at the new vision sport, very interesting stories here. We see Kasule gets locked out, and Magogo has made it almost impossible to be challenged. That is the FUFA president, and we see those that are trying. Mujib Kasule, they are failing and being locked out of there. Then we see KCCA holds FC, that is a Stanbic Uganda Cup quarter-finals there, and the results and the games that are going to be played. There is more for you there. But remember, when it comes to sports, Aaron Ruben Kasera Chibirango is always ready to give you all the updates that you need to know, so do not miss him at that point. And of course, Felix, some of the interesting stories I heard you read, girls that do what? Bad girls?
Yeah, that break men's hearts.
Break men's hearts. Okay, at one time they are bad, but people see them as not that bad until their hearts are broken. But of course, Priscilla is getting prepared to take you through traffic updates for you to know how best and how safe, how fast you can get to your next destination. Let's Priscilla. Yes. Good morning in the capacity of a traffic officer.
Good morning in the capacity of a motorcycle driver. Hey, motorcycle.
So
you should tell us, is it a BMX? Is it a Yamaha? A Bajaj?
Well, there are bikes that I can. Okay,
so
whatever
Robert,
it is,
which
it's
one
a two-wheel
is it?
thing, and it's motorized. Today I want to get your comment on these non-motorized lanes that were created, that were in Kampala.
I beg your pardon?
Non-motorized lane.
Yes.
The pilot project in the city. You see, yes, I wonder, people are driving through them. Traders are occupying them with their goods, and yet we are still proud that we have such lanes, and enforcement is not happening.
Well, the purpose of it, you have already said it. It was a pilot project, just to test and see if it actually works in Kampala. But you're looking at a Kampala that is already congested just by infrastructure. You know, when you look at the buildings, the roads are narrow. Now, when you bring in a non-motorized lane, yes, it's a good idea, but borrowed from a country and a city that is larger than where Kampala sits. Motorized lane, yes, it's a good idea, but borrowed from a country and a city that is larger than where Kampala sits on land. Now, that is where the challenge comes in. And because it's a pilot project, the only way you can know that it's successful is if they actually start doing them around the different divisions of Kampala. But so far, that has not happened 2 years down the road ever since they did the first pilot. Now, that also shows you that perhaps it was not a successful. Good idea, but given the infrastructure that we have, given the economic infrastructure also that we have, especially in the area where it was put, downtown Kampala is heavily, densely populated with people, and they're ever on the move for 24 hours. Now, while it was a good initiative, downtown Kampala, transport is downtown Kampala, business is downtown Kampala, trading is downtown Kampala. Then you realize that maybe it was a wrong idea, because everything happens downtown Kampala and then it spreads into the uptown Kampala. Now, speaking of uptown Kampala, we do have a town here, Nalwoga. We want to see how traffic is looking like in Nalwoga, stretch it into Kabalagala, have a sneak peek into Kansanga as we head into Zambia, where we are having the flyovers being constructed there. Now, taking it from the industrial area where you do have Mukwano roundabout, you get to see that on the Mukwano roundabout, you do have some traffic jam straight onto the traffic lights on Ginger Road. Now, that straight shows you that there is a management of the traffic lights that does influence the traffic on Mukwano Road. And as you have just seen, it has just turned from orange, and now there's a red zone that has appeared on this side. But the green zone shows you that now the traffic is flowing to whatever direction this traffic is supposed to be going. Either it's joining Kampala Road or Ginger Road, or they're actually crossing through to Yusuf Lude Road. However, this red zone that has also just built up here, well, when you is also depicted by the red zone that you are seeing there. And then there's another red zone here that comes up into Nalwoga, and that simply shows you that because there's a red zone on the main route, these vehicles are going to take a while before they can join the actual route. However, when you are moving through the Mukwano roundabout and trying to straight into Zambia, or Chibuli for that matter, there is no traffic jam that you will be experiencing, except for this short hiccup here. Past this, it looks to be a clear road. And just having a sneak peek into the rest of Mukwano Road, it actually is a clear road this morning, even though there's some sort of construction that is going on because of the Kampala flyover. A sneak peek into what would be one of the industrial areas. When you look at 6th Street, it looks clear. When you look into Nalwoga, what would be one of the industrial areas, Nalwoga has about 2 slum areas, and so there's so many commuter taxis that pick up people from this area and get them into the heart of the city. But when we look at one of the main routes through Nalwoga, which is Green Hill, you get to see that Green Hill is actually a clear route. Mbogo Road would be a connecting route for people that are coming in from Muyenga and Bukasa. They will use Mbogo Road to connect easily and faster to the heart of the city, probably maybe ending up on the likes of Mulago or even Lugongo. That would be the better alternative than going through Zambia, then you go through Queensway, then you connect into the heart of the city. So Mbogo Road would be a good option. Mbogo Road is a clear route this morning, as you can see. Now it brings you into Ethiopian Village, where you do have Muyenga Road, and it also takes you into the trading center for Kabalagala. And the trading center for Kabalagala this morning, as you can clearly see it, you just do have traffic jam at the cross sections there for the roads. You do have Muyenga Road, you do have Zambia Road, you do have continuing into continuing into the other parts, and then you do have Nsambia Estate Road also that brings in some traffic. Also, we do have these routes that bring in traffic, especially from the other side of Munyonyo and Machindi and also Lukuri. So in the trading center, as you can see, commuter taxis are mostly the ones that will build traffic in this area, but away from that, it's actually pretty clear. When you look at the rest of Kabalagala into Kansanga, it's a clear route. When you look at the straight from the trading center in Kabalagala and we're trying to connect into Nsambia, only a little bit of traffic around the embassy, the US embassy, and then away from that, the rest of the route actually does look clear. However, when you look at Nsambia, if you're using the Nsambia Estate Road, you're going to definitely come out from Nsambia Hospital, and Nsambia Hospital is having a red zone to and from. But totally understand, I did have a time I spent in Nsambia Hospital, 2 months to be exact, because of my sister, and the traffic in this place is actually cumbersome. Why? Because there's so many vehicles of patients that are coming in and out of the hospital, and because it's a narrow road, it does affect the flow of the traffic on this particular road, especially trying to connect to Nsambia Road. But away from that, you get to see another red zone that will usually bring in traffic is the interaction between Nsambia Estate Road and also the sharing road that brings in traffic from Machindi and the likes. Now, this interaction here will also be cumbersome. Now, for drivers, please be considerate. You can allow someone to come into the road. It doesn't take anything away from you. It doesn't challenge you in any way. It doesn't reduce the time that you're going to be on the road. Even if you refuse them, they're still going to be behind you. So selfishness on the road, dear drivers, this morning you can do better. But let's now drop into Nsambia Road where it connects with Mukwano Road and interacts with Queensway. And as you can see, Queensway is just red zones all over the place. With a continuous construction, this place is actually going to be harder and harder to pass through in time, most especially in the mornings and lunchtime and also in the evening. So now would be the best time for you to learn your alternative routes away from Queensway in the near future, at least for the rest of this year. Please find that alternative route because it's going to help you avoid the traffic jam that builds up here. You can spend literally an hour to 40 minutes in just this area here, and yet you have a business to open up, you have a meeting to run to, you do have official matters to go to. Members of parliament must be in parliament on time, in time and at time. So find alternative routes to that. Now, speaking of alternatives, we have been looking at global climate here on Good Morning Uganda with Kenyana Molen. Good morning to you, Kenyana.
Yes, good morning, Priscilla.
How are you?
I am doing well, and I must say I loved the conversation where we were saying that the ends justify the means.
Let's start from there. The kind of politicking that we were told about. Felix did tell us about the styles of politicking and how they have actually worked for certain politicians, which we do agree. But where do we draw the line of politics and service?
Yeah, because you find that when we vote in these people and we are looking at parties, of course, everyone is supporting whichever party they are actually. We are looking at parties, of course, everyone is supporting whichever party they actually belong to. But at the end of the day, we need service. So the politics has to stop somewhere, and then you mind the service. So whether you got into parliament or into the council through which party, at the end of the day, you have to deliver. Yeah. And that is what we are looking at. That is what we mind actually at this point. Because whatever happened before they got there, we did make them get there. So now it's time for them to actually deliver. So those are, that's the end.
All right, I think we're going to have to, send this conversation to social media and hear other people's opinions. Later on in the day, you can go #UBCGMU and you can find a conversation between myself, Molen, Felix, and equally Robert. But between me and you, Molen, we have been talking about global warming this entire week, right, from Monday. And global warming is basically when there's increased temperatures on the planet. In simple terms, for me and you, but for Molen, the expert in meteorology, she definitely has an even deeper insight in global warming. Now, yesterday we were looking at, green
gases and the gases that come out of waste management. And you talked about how the sewage corporation was doing something in that
producing methane, because in their report they are happy actually to be managing the waste in a more modern way, and they have the biggest plant, but at the same time they are producing methane, which is one of the greenhouse gases. So yeah, that was a concern yesterday, but there is still more, Priscilla, I can tell you.
Okay, so you have mentioned the green gas.
The greenhouse gases.
Greenhouse gases.
Oh, I need to get you more lessons on these things.
I know, we have
you have to pay some private tuition
one of the
for me to
challenges.
teach you a lot of the greenhouse gases and the climate. Before you know it, you'll be a climate scientist. Just on that show.
I can't be so many things, really. But you've talked about greenhouse gases. I was actually just having a read about global warming, and they did mention that human activity, especially in the form of greenhouse gas emission, is one of the biggest causes of global warming. What's the relationship?
Yes, and you're right about that. The reports are showing 90% of what is causing all these changes, and also the global trend in warming is actually due to human activities. Now, it is the activities that we have both from agriculture, industrialization. As the economy keeps growing, we do have a lot of industrialization that also comes in play. But at the same time, that is what is contributing to more emissions into the atmosphere and more of these gases, because literally these are the gases that trap the heat. When we talk about global warming, then we're looking at that warming trend within the atmosphere, even globally, or also the sea surface temperatures. But the bottom line is because of what we are doing. There are natural processes as well, but 90%, like I mentioned, is due to the activities that we are doing. Because industries, agriculture, it's all run by us.
I actually wanted to just hint on agriculture because it's a human activity, and in most recent times we are seeing that because of agricultural demand, there's a need for development in the science of practicing agriculture, and that means that there's so many gases that are being introduced into the soil because of that, through the pesticides that people are producing, all these treatments for plants and for animals, the fertilizers that you're talking about, and they do interact with the environment, don't they?
Yeah, we are talking about nature, everything around us, from the soils to even the plants themselves that we do plant. It's all connected. And when you look at recently all these innovations to have pesticides or even the fertilizers, you look at even more countries that are what we call the food baskets of the world, really, like Brazil. They are reporting more of these gases, especially when we are talking about nitrous oxide, because basically they have a lot of agriculture activities going on, and that definitely contributes to most of these gases to being in the atmosphere.
Okay, finally, there's a cycle. I believe if these fertilizers are put into the ground, it's going to change the chemical composition of the soils. And then someone is going to plant a hybrid seed in that chemical changed composition of the soil. And that the combination of the two is going to produce a completely different plant. And that plant is going to be eaten by you and me. Those are the things in it. But this cassava tastes a little bit bitter.
Different.
This lumonde the color is quite different. Now, how are we going to ensure that this cycle can be taken back to organic so that we can save the planet?
Yeah. That's a good question, and quite challenging to say, because at the same time we need these fertilizers, especially for the soils that are not that rich to support agricultural activities. But what we are saying is regulating this and also having more planning for crop growing. So in every season, like if this season you've planted a crop that required you to apply fertilizers, then you have to make sure that next season you don't need to apply these fertilizers, because at the end of the day they do have an effect on whichever crops we come up with. But also looking at more modern way of making these fertilizers, because you find that yes, they go into the soil. So looking at more modern way of making these fertilizers, because you find that yes, they go into the soil and obviously they are going to add a composition, change the composition of the soil. But shouldn't we have more products that can actually be helpful in terms of crop growing, but at the same time still keep our soil safe?
Okay.
So that is a big question that I pose to all the people that are actually making these fertilizers, because there are more products out there in the market, and the best products that are now looking for. I'm actually happy that within this century there's been more development towards getting fertilizers and more products that are sustainable. Yeah.
All right. Now, as I, sit back and listen to your professional self talking about more of global climate. Once upon a time, we used to have communities and homesteads where you had plants and animals. And what used to happen is that, the cow dung would be collected and put in the garden. I think that's a more natural way of actually fertilizing your garden than actually putting in, who are most recently into gardening, home gardening, backyard gardening, find natural resources that can actually improve the quality and the composition of your soils. That's the little that I know. I'm going to leave the more of it to Kenyana Molen.
Yeah, you actually mentioned a good point, Priscilla, about how we can go naturally and use some of the things that are available to us. Like if you have the cow dung that you can apply in your garden, that is much more better than you buying products that will in turn actually end up disorganizing your soil, and then you have to look out for more farming practices, but which is also a must do, especially in this changing environment, the changing climate. And like for Uganda, our biggest contributor to the economy is agriculture. So this is a field that we really need to look at and concentrate more. Now, this comes at a day to day. We are looking at a regional level to developing our seasonal forecast. I'm talking about June up to September. Now, the map that you're seeing over there is what today ICPAC and in partnership with a lot of our partners and also the national meteorological authorities across the region are trying to come up with our next seasonal forecast. Now, be sure that I will be bringing this out to you. Now, this is what we have been talking about, Priscilla and I, about what is happening across the world. We're looking at more of these gases that are being emitted into the atmosphere. We are looking at mostly carbon dioxide. We're looking at mostly methane, and also now today we have been talking about nitrous oxide. The nitrous oxide is not just from like the farming practices that we've mentioned, agriculture, but also some industrialization that has been responsible for producing much more of these gases. Now, when we talk about the greenhouse gases, mostly we talk about majorly four, where we are looking at carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, as well as water vapor. Now, a question comes in as to how water vapor actually comes in play, because it is in the atmosphere, but its ability to also absorb that heat is also what makes it one of the greenhouse gases, and something we should look out for. Although it radiates, but also it is a big contributor of the heat. Now look at our forests, because we have more water vapor evaporating from the forest cover, from the seas, from lakes, and also from most of the agriculture activities that we have. That contributes to its percentage within the atmosphere. But what is more dangerous is actually the fumes that we are seeing from different industries, the fumes that we are seeing from different burning of fossil fuels, even from the cars that we drive each day. So that is something that we need to look out for, and also know that it contributes a lot to our changing climate. Now I'll take you back home here and look at what we're seeing over our satellite over Uganda this morning. We do have mostly a clear day. We have those clear skies across the Karamoja region, and mostly a sunny morning. We are having mostly also intervals of cloudy conditions. That is across northern Uganda. but that will be clearing as the morning goes on, because we do expect more rains to come in later in the evening. Across western Uganda, also still a very clear day. We do have that system that is starting to develop across midwestern Fort Portal, but that will be until later in the afternoon where we expect it to develop and have more rain showers, especially towards the southwestern. We're talking about Kabale, Chisoro. But looking at what we have across Lake Victoria Basin, we do have that rain system already bringing us rains across the islands of Lake Victoria, but it is only bringing to us only cloudy conditions, and that is over a few areas. So much of what we have across central Kampala, Entebbe, and also for Wakiso is just mainly cloudy conditions. Although in the morning we did start off with that rainy, some light rains. Those were across a few areas within Kampala, Wakiso, and also parts of Entebbe, which we actually had in our forecast, but we're seeing now a clearing trend. There is sun coming through, and we're likely to have most of that as the morning goes through. Although there is a forecast for more rains that will be originating from the lake towards this area, that is towards the eastern part of Lake Victoria Basin. We're talking about originating from the lake towards this area, that is towards the eastern part of Lake Victoria Basin. We're talking about Tororo, Jinja, so do look out for those, and they will be coming your way as the day goes on. But for now, most of the places within the country are having intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. We will move over and take you through what we have in terms of our forecast this morning. Now we have mostly, like I mentioned, sunny intervals, but we do have that forecast still for that cloud that is developing from Lake Victoria that will be bringing us some of those light rains across a few areas, and your morning will be at 26 degrees centigrade. Now some of the areas we have for you, again, we do expect sunny intervals for southwestern Uganda, Ibanda and Barara. Ruizi as well, you will be at a nice 26 degrees and more with a mix of clouds and sunshine. Look at more areas. We do have the central part of the country, that is eastern central to be specific. We are forecasting intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions as well. Quite a warm morning, more like what we had yesterday as well. Today will be at 27 degrees. Now looking at what we have for part of eastern Uganda, Soroti, Katakwi, mostly a sunny day, but you will have that mix of cloud coming through as the morning goes by, and also we are forecasting a warm morning at 28 degrees, similar actually to what we had even yesterday. Now Mbale, Bududa, you do have that cloud as well, but mostly a sunny morning, quite pleasant over there at a nice 26 degrees. And looking at most of the areas that we still have across the country, I can tell you we do have mostly intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions, but we are expecting rains to come in through later in the afternoon, mostly to the northern part of the country as well as the Chuga region. And like I mentioned before, we do see an onset, early signs to the onset of the rainy season, and I'm happy that now East Africa as a region is trying to develop our seasonal forecast. Be sure that our details after we have downscaled and know exactly what is going to be happening for different parts of the country. So as we prepare in terms of the people who are preparing their gardens, the people who are looking at different activities that we need to do within this season. My name is Molen Kenyana, and you can't stay with us. We do have a Good Morning Uganda agenda coming up, so stay with us. And you can also follow us on YouTube. We are streaming live, and also follow the conversations via our social media handles. Thank you very much and have a good morning.
With Airtel Money today, agent application and registration is free of charge. All you need to submit as a sole proprietor business is a letter from the business owner requesting for a SIM card and the purpose of the SIM card, Certified copy of Certificate of Registration of the Business issued by URSB. Certified copy of Statement of Particulars of the Registered Business and supporting statutory declaration in verification of the particulars. Copy of Valid Trading License. Copy of Operational License issued by the relevant regulatory authority. Copy of TIN Certificate issued by URA. Valid National ID for Ugandan proprietor or passport for foreign national, including a valid immigration entry permit, work national, including a valid colored passport size photograph of the proprietor and handler of the business. Proof of current physical address of the business, tenancy agreement or utility bill in the name of the proprietor or landlord, or LC1 introduction letter confirming ownership and location of the business. You will be informed of your application status within a maximum of 5 working days, still free of charge. Upon successful agent application, Airtel will provide training and customized branding material for your business location, still free of charge. To register, call us today on 126 toll-free. Airtel Money. Simple, secure, borderless. Airtel is regulated by Uganda Communications Commission.
You can trust the origin and authenticity of a product using a
Developing Uganda together.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Up shoes. Let's see how Anna and Jonathan explain this one.
Jonathan, I'm ready for the party. How do you like my shirt?
I hope you didn't pay a lot of money for that.
Not at all. I made it on a shoestring.
I can believe it.
Shoestrings do not cost a lot. So if you do something, shoestrings do not cost a lot. So if you do something on a shoestring, you do it using very little money. You can also use shoestring as an adjective. Someone might say, I decorated my house on a shoestring budget. And that's English in a Minute.
Pick of the Day on UBC, brought to you by was brought to you by
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Central Points when you deposit, send, and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go, MTN. From 1st May 2021, everywhere you go, MTN.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field couldn't be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is
A lovely morning to you once again. Welcome back from the weather forecast and of course traffic updates. Now time we look at an issue of national concern and indeed an issue of national concern. So please be with us for the remaining minutes as we go through our GMU agenda. And this time around, we are going to be looking at COVID-19, more so updates regarding vaccination. There are some words that are common when you talk about COVID-19, variant, and now the word second wave. I have an expert from Ministry of Health, but I'm also going to be joined on later by another in case it keeps time. And this morning I have Dr. Akampaire Immaculate, who is the Senior Medical Officer, Ministry of Health, in charge of immunization, vaccines division, expanded program on immunization. I have the lady who follows, with whom we are going to be discussing so much regarding COVID-19. Doctor, you're most welcome to our studios.
Thank you, and good morning, viewers. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for honoring our invitation. Doctor, to start with, I think there are two words that are now going to dominate this discussion, and our viewers should understand them better. First, the word variants. This is now we are hearing this variant, what we had previously. Please, let's begin by throwing more light into this.
Thank you. So when we talk about variants, it means different types of the virus. So viruses, the coronavirus, like other viruses, have great potential virus. So viruses, the coronavirus, like other viruses, have great potential at the molecular level, especially when there is no immunity in the population. When we give the virus time to circulate, it can change its DNA and turn into different types of forms of the virus. And the coronavirus is similar, is under the group of the SARS viruses we are seeing over the years, but this is a different strain and more virulent in terms of spreading very fast and in terms of causing a lot of disease and death. So variants mean simply changes in the DNA content of the virus and making it. You know, organisms have ways of surviving. So the way they want to thrive is by multiplying more, and so the way they want to thrive is by multiplying more and changing. Organisms have potential to find ways of multiplying and thriving in the environment, and that is one of the characteristics that viruses have. Okay. Another word that also we are going to be using most in this discussion is second wave or a wave. Now, when we tell Ugandans that, hey, the second wave is around and it is with us, also let's understand this, then you can dive more into issues of immunization. As with previous influenza outbreaks, we saw trends of the epidemics or pandemics, where we had intervals of spikes in the cases, then drops, and then again another spike, due to what you've mentioned, the variants, and also limited interventions to interrupt the transmission of the viruses. So that is one of the characteristics of the influenza outbreaks. In terms, they tend to see waves, rising waves, rising, going down, and sometimes they coincide with seasonal trends. They tend to thrive in the cold weather, in the winters and rains. So that's why we see, if you don't put in measures, they spike if the season is appropriate for the virus to thrive. If you don't, that's the natural trend of the virus. So what people do is to vaccinate and put in measures so that that spike is not very significant. So can we confirm if the second wave is with us in Uganda? Yes, if you look at the data, we see that now Uganda is picking back, because we had that spike around November 2020 and then a drop in Jan. Now is beginning of May, April and May, we see ourselves rising, and also looking at the number of new cases being registered. We are now over 200 cases in a short time, in a week. So that shows that we are rising and going back to the second phase as a country. As a country. Well, we want also to look at more in terms of COVID-19 vaccination. So much has been said, and at one time, all that we were saying, should we have at least a vaccine where people can be immunized and therefore can continue with work? Because what happens when someone is immunized, yes, they'll get COVID-19 if they are exposed or expose themselves. But the difference is severe illness and death will be avoided.
Now, Doctor, remember it was on the 10th of March when we launched, that is a vaccination in Uganda. We have around, by then we had 964 doses that were in the country, and Ugandans were to partake of this. But as we speak, looking at statistics, I think we've immunized about 541,569 persons. This could be around 63% of the vaccines that were distributed. One would wonder, first and foremost, why aren't we seeing Ugandans embracing vaccination that fast? And we've only done this since March.
Yes, we've had 60 days of implementation of this vaccination response as a secondary measure to interrupting the pandemic. First, there was a lockdown and also the institution of the standard operating procedures in terms of wearing masks, social distancing and avoiding public places, and also hand washing and hygiene and sanitization. So secondary to the SOPs, we introduced the vaccination response that the world was waiting for to interrupt this pandemic. And considering the vaccines that were received, 964,000 doses in the country chose to consider first the high-risk groups, which was health workers, the security, teachers, and persons above 50, and conditions that predispose them to severe forms of disease and death. So why have we not done well over the last 2 months? One is, I think, social media. Have you seen them? I saw one yesterday saying that people are dying in 2 years following vaccination. So really it is miscommunication, and also the doses were limited and we have limited sites. But by and large it was the social media and the anti-vaccination messages going round. But we want to remind Ugandans that in life is all you have. And protecting your life is a personal responsibility. Good enough, this vaccine is targeting persons who can consent and make decisions for their lives. Our government has done their part with our limited resources. We have mobilized all the, it's up to us as the country as we go into the second phase, into the second wave, to ensure that there is a number of cases coming. And we are hoping that you have been vaccinated, protect yourselves. That's a personal responsibility. As a ministry, as a program, and as government, we have brought the vaccine. It is down in the facilities, and it is up to the communities and leaders to ensure that all persons above 50 years who are more at risk of severe forms of disease and death partake of this vaccine. And also persons above, and actually we've opened up to any person above 18 who is interested in getting this vaccine for their personal protection to go to their respective health facilities within their districts and receive the vaccine. Because we've given enough time to the high risk, the health workers and the teachers, and we are hoping that school authorities, before your teachers report to our schools, to ensure that they are protected, because transmission is high. We've seen clusters of cases in schools and also institutions attached to hospitals, and we are hoping that all school authorities and school directors ensure that the medical students attached to hospitals, because those are health workers, and also teachers within the schools where we are seeing clusters of cases are protected. So that is what we are communicating to the public.
Doctor, let's also better understand this second wave. Yes, you've given us an update on vaccination. The vaccines are available. People should go and get vaccinated. But we've also heard that now we are having more youth, younger ages, with the second wave getting affected. What are some of the things that may not have been in the first wave, maybe that a Ugandan now should understand that this is how serious the situation is?
Thank you for that question. So with these new strains, and also the time the virus has, we've given the virus the luxury to be around in the environment by not adhering to the SOPs and also uptake of the vaccine. So the vaccines, and if you are not careful, you're yet to see more variants. So because viruses, when there's no immunity, that is the fertile ground for variations, for mutating to ensure that they really thrive in the environment like other organisms. So because of these new variants, and because, you know, diseases, we tended to see the first wave in adults. Diseases do not know boundaries, you know. They don't know geographical borders, they don't know age. So, but for now we are saying the adults, please protect yourselves. So this new variant is not selective in terms of age. So children and persons who are not targeted for vaccination can transmit the disease, can die of the disease. And we are seeing more death and illness with the second wave. Looking at the India scenario, that can come to us.
So do we say the second wave is more lethal? It spreads fast as well? Yeah,
the variant of, and affecting more of the younger ones. Before it was the 50 years, and we know Uganda, a very small proportion of our population is about 50. So most of the people in the environment are below, are the young ones, and those below 18. So the virus is, the disease will catch those who are available to them, and for us, it is the youth, it is the young ones. Yes.
How do we mitigate? That is the invasion of this second wave. How best can we ensure that we do not get to that situation? Already, I had the PS Ministry of Health saying our intensive care units are getting full to capacity, just within this to capacity 4 cases, just a single day. This seems very high. So how do we ensure that we avoid the worst?
As we said, the first one, because we said vaccines are limited. Number one is personal protection.
So first is getting vaccinated.
First is, are you putting on a mask?
Okay.
Are you sanitizing? Are you avoiding public places? Social distancing? Okay, that is number one. What you can do at home, what you can institute in your workplace, what you can institute in the taxi, in the market. We have to go back to the standards. Number two is vaccination. If you've been allocated persons above 50, 18 years with comorbidities, health workers, the health workers now, cases are coming. How is the health system to protect the workforce? Because the health system is as good as its human resource. And we've brought the vaccine to protect the frontline health workers in the treatment centers, those testing at the border points. Authorities should ensure that these persons are protected so that our health system, and actually the purpose of this initial phase of vaccination, which we want to close, was to protect the integrity of the health system within the state, so that when cases continue coming, a health system in place to stand in place to handle the cases and also manage other conditions beyond the COVID-19. We have other issues to deal with beyond the COVID, so we must maintain the integrity and the strength of the health system, which is the human resource.
Okay, well, we'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll have another expert. That is Dr. Dan Okedo, who is the Director, Public Health and Environment at KCCA. Join us on set. Kampala is one of the areas that has greatly been affected by COVID-19, and actually, as you're yet to know in this discussion, we're seeing vaccines being withdrawn from some areas where they're not being used that much to Kampala. We'll return shortly after this break.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Welcome to English in a Minute. These are shoestrings. They tie up shoes. Let's see how Anna and Jonathan explain this one.
Jonathan, I'm ready for the party. How do you like my shirt?
I hope you didn't pay a lot of money for that.
Not at all. I made it on a shoestring.
I can believe it.
Shoestrings do not cost a lot. So, if you do something on a shoestring, you do it using very little money. You can also use shoestring as an adjective. Someone might say, I decorated my house on a shoestring budget. And that's English in a minute.
With, of course, space reducing, yes, we had to mask ourselves. One of the things we always tell you that where you can't social distance or when you go to a public place, please ensure you have your mask on. On set, we are joined by Dr. Daniel Okello, who is the Director, Public Health and Environment at Kampala Capital City Authority. Doctor, you're most welcome.
Thank you.
We were discussing the second wave, but also looking at statistics in terms of vaccination. Please briefly begin by painting a picture of how grave this situation that is going to face Ugandans should we not abide by the stipulated standard operating procedures to protect ourselves.
Okay, when you look at the weekly numbers for May, and I'll concentrate myself to Kampala, between the third and the fourth week, we had a 4-time increase in weekly numbers. And what that tells you that is definitely exponential growth. I think in the first week we had 106, close to 160 cases. By the third week we was over 600, coming to 600 cases. So that just tells you that there is diffuse transmission in the community, but the deaths have also increased and the severe cases have also become much less. I think there was a time where in 3 days we had 6 deaths. So not only are people getting more infected, but they're also dying.
They're also dying.
Yes.
Doctor, to a person watching this show, of course, now many have become complacent. It seems it is a normal thing. What is there that they can really depend on to understand that this has gone far? Yes, you've mentioned about cases in Kampala, but we've had COVID-19 burials, we've had COVID-19 patients recovering, and many will tell you, giving testimonies. I got COVID, I didn't even know I had COVID-19, only to be tested, and they tell me, it is something you can go by.
Yeah, you know, there is, I think there's this Uganda saying which says that, is it achikozesa yatite chibot? You know, after you've gone through, that's when you will have to say, oh, I passed through this. But there are those who unfortunately won't have that privilege of saying what you're saying. And we should take it as a privilege that we have managed to go through, not as a right that we actually did this. So we should be able to stamp on other people who did not be able to make it. And what I'm telling people is, you know, there are things we take for granted, and that is like the air around us. And when you have COVID, the air that you breathe every day and you take for granted then becomes very expensive to get, because you cannot get it. Even when there is oxygen, it is difficult to take it down. So yes, let's be happy that we have actually survived. But that does not mean that we should not be able to save people from getting it. And just like you survived, people also have a right to make sure that they do not get COVID. So very, very briefly, that's what I can let people take that. Just because survive does not mean that.
Immaculate, you've talked about the first phase of vaccination that is coming to an end. What does this mean? We're at a time when the second wave is coming in, and how do you make sure that this first phase is coming to an end?
The first phase was time limited and was actually meant to prepare for the second wave that we are now going through, targeting the frontline health workers, the teachers, to allow for continuity of social services, security, and as well as the most persons risk for death and severe disease and persons with comorbidities. So we cannot wait for 1 year to implement that. It is time now to open up for the public. We finished the high-risk groups, so we are thinking, or we want to withdraw all the vaccines back to Kampala to open up to any person above 18 that is ready for vaccination now. So first phase is
We're withdrawing them to Kampala, yet we know everybody is not in Kampala. What is informing this decision?
The decision is the low uptake in the districts that has been observed over the last 60 days. We've given them time, and we cannot risk losing the vaccine to expiry. So this is a very rare product at this time, and we still believe that Kampala, Wakiso, and Mukono are high camps in strategic areas to ensure that this vaccine is utilized to the eligible population.
Well, that is a slide giving you some of the updates regarding COVID-19 accumulative cases, active cases as well, those that are admitted in health facilities, then the tests conducted so far, cumulative recoveries. These are some of the statistics. They're up there for you, and we'll be posting more of them as the show continues. Dr. Okelo, Kampala, where people are more prone because of the gathering, you in charge of people are more prone because of the gathering, you in charge of health in the city. When you move around, we are seeing alarming situations. People are so relaxed, and it seems maybe there is not so much being done to ensure that people comply.
You know, there is, and I'll say the information is there. And it has been there for a while. And when you look at the preventive measures, initially they are individual. You have to be your brother's keeper. And pushing it away to the other person that, you know, I cannot put on a mask because probably you have not told me. And or maybe I won't put on a mask because I feel that I find difficult in breathing. And I tell most people that the way the masks are made, you can, or maybe I won't put on a mask because I feel that I find difficult in breathing. And I tell most people that the way the masks are made, you can speak with the mask on, and that's why I'm speaking with the mask on, and I believe I'm quite audible. They are not meant to inconvenience you, they are meant to protect you. But the essence of the prevention is, let us be each other's keeper. Just like every night you lock your gate to prevent somebody from coming in, also try to prevent your health by putting the mask, social distance, and washing. Yes, we may want to hug our relatives. Yes, we may want to be at all these parties. Yes, we may feel that probably putting the mask may not be as cool as you wish, but the most important thing is it is going to save your life. It is going to save your life of your loved ones. It is going to save your life of your workmates. It is going to save your life of your colleagues. So, much as the laxity is there, it is time for us now to put that laxity aside and say, what can we do to make sure that we can save life? And what we can do is, let's mask up when in public, let's social distance, and let us sanitize as much as possible. People, avoid those mass gatherings. Those mass gatherings are where we are having seeding. Kampala has about 50% of the cases. So when
50%?
Yes, when you seed in Kampala, you know, I tell people there is that spoken wheel. We'll seed here and people will move out and spread. So the last time when you were telling people during the Christmas season that if you loved your parents, please not visit them, such that you do not seed. Right now, if you love your relatives, if you love your colleagues, if you love your children, let's mask up, let us social distance, and let us avoid those congregate areas.
Dr. Immaculate, back to vaccination, a field that you're well conversant with and handle. How accessible is vaccination? You've talked about calling back, getting back drugs from up country, but then how accessible even here in Kampala?
Yeah, vaccines were distributed to all districts as at the national level, and they've been in the districts. We had initially guided districts to select sites, and some have also been doing outreach, also riding on the existing routine immunization for the children. So all you need is present yourself in your facility with your need, and we are giving the public 3 days in the districts outside Mukono, Wakiso, and Kampala. You have 3 days, today, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to go. Also, the health workers, if you can, please go to the churches, the mosques, and vaccinate these people so that by the time the withdrawal may not be applicable to you, so that you can consume. So they still have 4 days to utilize the vaccine that they have using mass mobilization. So we call on the religious leaders, if you can call the nearby facility to come and put the site and vaccinate your people, the churches. It is not, we still have 4 days. If they can do a campaign or intensify to vaccinate the eligible population within the next 4 days, then they'll still get the vaccine. But after that, vaccination will be closed in the high business districts where the transmission rate is, and due to the business activities. Yes.
Well, we just hope that people take advantage. Only 4 days and vaccination will be a problem. But doctor, let's also understand, World Health Organization recommended 12 weeks. That's about 3 months from when a person gets the first jab to get a second jab. So how then are you going to handle this? A person in Kapchorwa got the first jab, and then it's time for him to get the second jab, and you've withdrawn the vaccines.
The World Health Organization recommends persons who have received the vaccine to get their second dose at 8 to 12 weeks, and with preference towards as you go towards the 12th week due to the enhanced efficacy towards the 12-week interval. So what we are giving now in the intensification for the 4 days, we are giving persons their second dose, those who are due, and also the new recipients their first doses. So there is no concern, and we believe that by the time those who are getting the first doses now, in the next 12 weeks, we shall have received another consignment to give them the second dose and also continue with other populations with their first dose.
Dr. Okero, how prepared are we to combat this second invasion of COVID-19?
The Ministry of Health has already come up with a resurgency plan. And if you remember, about 6 or so months ago, we had already told people to expect the second wave. We have seen it in other countries. Uganda is not an exception. I know the health workers have been trained. We have been having the surge capacity for the health workers to be trained, and also from the case management unit, we have expanded our ICU capacity, especially in the 18 treatment sites. When you look at the surveillance, initially when COVID came, I think we had only 2 labs that were testing. Now we have gone up to 21 labs that are testing, such that we can be able to know where is the infection, how can we be able to get there. And we are also now on media drumming up support and telling people, let's not become lax. The second wave has already come, and experience has shown the second wave tends to be much more deadlier than the first. So all these are areas where we have been prepared.
These are what Ugandans must understand very well. When you talk about much more deadlier than the first, what are we looking at?
Okay, when you look at all countries, most deaths have occurred during the second wave. You can see what happened in India. When you compare the amount of deaths that occurred in the first and the second wave, you can see what happened in India. When you compare the amount of deaths that occurred in the first and the second wave, they tend to be multiples of about 3 to 4 times, and more people tend to get infected. Even in the United States, even in the UK, the second wave tends to be much more deadlier. So we are telling people that we saw. Right now we may have close to just over 350 deaths, but with the second wave coming in, if we do not adequately prepare, that number can double in a very short while. Yeah.
Well, very important factors. Life is always a priority, and when it comes to COVID-19, you can have the vaccine. That is also one of the assurance that yes, most likely you survive death. Even when you contract the disease, all you have is you will not have the severe illnesses, and you will also not have the death. So please, vaccination is key. And we have Dr. Ampere Immaculate, who is the Senior Medical Officer, that is Ministry of Health, and that is the Immunization and Vaccine Division, Uganda National Expanded Program on Immunization, and Dr. Daniel Okero, who is the Director of Public Health and Environment at KCCA, with whom we are discussing how we can mitigate the invasion of the second wave of COVID-19. It is here with us. And like they have all said, it is more dangerous, spreads fast, and not very selective in terms of age. Like previously, what we knew, that it's only those that have comorbidities, the elderly, 50, 60 and above. But this we are seeing as far as 18 years and above, people succumbing and also contracting this disease. Now, doctor, there is this issue, Dr. Immaculate, of asymptomatic persons. people that have the virus but actually don't have any signs, they don't have any symptoms, and at a certain time, I don't know if they recover, they keep on, they remain vectors. What really happens with asymptomatic people?
Coronavirus is like behaves like flu viruses. Most of the viral infections pass without notice because of the body, depending on the person's immunity, and it is where the immunity is. So most of us may be asymptomatic, and that is why we are saying assume that everyone around you is a corona patient and protect yourself, because by the time you see the symptoms, it may be too late. Yeah, so and that is why, and also consider that the labs that are testing are limited and they are positioned at strategic points of transition. So no one is testing everyone. We don't have capacity to test anyone. So even at vaccination, we don't care about your serostatus. We don't have capacity to screen every recipient turning up. So that's why we are saying, please add higher. What did we did well with the first wave. We can still apply. Even when you're coming for vaccination, put on your mask, hand sanitize, and social distance. Let us respect the SOPs and maybe the persons in charge, the securities, the departments, because every local government has respective ministry departments in the districts. So these people can be, we have encouraged the district task forces chaired by the RDCs really to engage the coordination mechanisms within the district in terms of enforcement and coordinating the vaccination response to ensure that the population is protected.
Dr. Okelo, Kampala, Wakiso, Mukono are some of the areas with high infection rates. But let's understand, for a person who's watching this show, where can someone easily get this vaccination?
Is that at least all the government units, all the public government units, at least the government units tend to have a signpost that this is a Government of Uganda facility. So you can get them in all the public units in these 3 facilities. We have also managed to identify some non-government organization facilities, but also private facilities that people can be able to get this. We passed out I think a list, and we'll pass it again. So at least all the government facilities, if in doubt, go to your nearest facility and they'll be able to inform you where you can get the vaccines. But we are also, as Dr. Machulet said, we are doing a few outreaches here and there, especially in those groups that we know are high risk. We know, like for the teachers, we tend to go to schools and tell teachers to congregate in one school, and we can be able to give them the vaccine. And also, like now we are saying the tour agents who we know move, we are saying, can you congregate in one place, and we can be able to give the vaccine in one area. So we are using quite innovative methods to make sure that we can also go to the people and they get the vaccine rather than...
Accurate. We've had fears.
What you want to do is that you need to get the people to move with you. You need to get the people to understand that, as you say, health begins at home, as the story has been. So when you notice His Excellency always came and spoke to the people on TV and explained to the people that, you know what, this is why you need to mask. This is why you need to do this. So the first thing would be is to amp up risk communication. Why don't I have to do A, B, C, D, and D? Why don't I have to go in congregate areas? Why don't I have to go and sit in a bar? Because if you sit in a bar, people are not masking, people are not able to control themselves after a period of time, or if they are, the sitting of bars is that people tend to be close together, they're in closed places, so they tend to be high risk. Why don't I, if I'm telling you, why kind of reduce the area? So risk communication would then to be one way to go. The other is, as you're saying, depending on our thresholds and where we are, that is where then you can then be able to bring the non-pharmaceutical interventions, as they are saying, masking and being able to not shut down, but to reduce activities in certain sectors. The principle usually is, and what has been done in other countries, is the last area you open up tends to be the first area you close. So then the first area you opened up tends to be the last area you close. So those, because you're looking at risk, and then because the high risk tends to be opened up last, and the low risk tends to be opened up last. So you do an assessment. It may kill probably 1% of the people, but it infects so many people. We have a potential of having 100,000 people in 1 month. Now, if 1% of 100,000 people die, that is 1,000 people per month. So that is where, and because you're having those 1,000 people being able to occupy all probably a number of beds that you have in the facility and taking your workforce, then it will affect your continuity of service. You want to have an emergency cesarean, probably the space is not there, you cannot go to ICU. So then you have other time, let the health facility be able to manage, and then you ease.
Tactically, you're talking about a lockdown.
You know what I'm saying? Closing the tap can be done by, as we are saying now, let's tell people to mask up.
Okay.
Let's tell people to social distance. Let's tell people at workplaces, do you really need to have 100% of your workforce, or do I need to have 20% of my workforce? So those are the procedures that you can say. If everybody said that for you to enter any shop in this city and you have no mask, do not come in. That can be one way of making sure that happens. But definitely, depending on how the situation is, then other measures can then be able to come on board. But as I say, the decision is not mine.
The decision is not yours, but we are listening to voices of reason, scientists, people that are really at the front line when it comes to COVID-19. Dr. Immaculate, time is not so much on our side, but from you looking at the vaccination side of it, we want to get your recommendations. We are seeing vaccines present, people reluctant to take them. At the end of the day, this will have an impact on the health system of this country. But also, just to get it from you, re-emphasize that vaccinations are free. You know, Uganda, anything can happen.
Yes. So when this pandemic came, the world was really panicking, masking, locking down. And then the only sustainable intervention and for interrupting the transmission was vaccination. Now the vaccine is here, and we are transmitting messages and conspiracies of vaccination and everything. We want to kill people. The vaccine does what? So to linger, change and mutate, and more virulent variants will come for other phases. So we need to join the world in the fight against COVID. Diseases do not know boundaries. They do not know age. The intervention is here in addition, the SOPs. Get the vaccine that we can interrupt transmission, because we have to stop this and continue with our lives. And the only sustainable and cost-effective intervention is vaccination.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ampere Immaculate. That is the senior.
And the vaccine is free. I forgot to say that.
Yes,
it is free, and it's available in your districts and public health facilities, providing routine immunization where they've been coming for outreach. For routine, please demand. You have 4 days to rush all part above 18 and get your vaccine and be protected. Do your part. Government has we've done our part. We have brought the intervention to the communities. So it is up to you. The ball is in your hand. Life is all we have. Please protect it.
Well, thank you, Doctor. Life is all we have. Please protect it. Go for vaccination. Prevention is much better than cure. And of course, you have no guarantee that when you get COVID-19, you will survive that. You do not have that guarantee. We are seeing even the young now succumbing to COVID-19 under the second wave. I also want to thank you so much, Dr. Okello Daniel, who is the Director of Public Health and Environment at KCCA. He says, let's ensure we would not stress our health system, because more COVID-19 patients have an implication on other services being offered by health systems. At the end of the day, the entire system may shrink just because you and I were not responsible enough. Let's be responsible Ugandans. Let's perfect the standard operating procedures, and let's go for vaccination. Those outside Kampala, you have 4 days. Then the vaccines will be brought to Kampala, where in case you miss, it might be hard for you to access the vaccine. Have a lovely day. God bless you. Let's fight this enemy together. We shall win, and indeed victory will be on our side.
Experience 100% 4G speeds across Uganda with the Airtel 4G Pocket Wi-Fi available at 123,000 shillings only. It comes with 15 GB free for 1 month. Visit the nearest Airtel shop, device selling shop or Airtel online shop. www.airtel.co.ug/broadband-Airtel online shop. www.airtel.co.ug/broadband-Airtel